Today we're going to take a dive into the dusty pages of history and discuss a very interesting question. What if Hezbollah had never been founded? How would Lebanon, the Middle East, and the world be different? It's hard to imagine how the fate of a nation, or even an entire region, could change without a key player like Hezbollah. But don't worry, we're going to dive deep into these waters together. Ready? Let's begin. Hezbollah's emergence in the 1980s came at a critical time for Lebanon. The Lebanese Civil War, which started in 1975, tore the country apart for almost 15 years, with various sects and groups fighting in a complex internal conflict. Although the war officially ended in 1990, the political and military balances were still fragile, and Hezbollah emerged as a major player. If Hezbollah had never been formed, how would Lebanon's Shiite community have represented itself in the political arena? Without Iran's strong backing, the Shiite community might have remained weaker. In that case, Lebanon's Sunni and Christian groups could have become more dominant, which could have sparked even more sectarian conflict. Looking at history, we see that Hezbollah grew rapidly after the Civil War. In 2000, when Israel withdrew from southern Lebanon, Hezbollah legitimized itself as a resistance movement. So I ask you, if Hezbollah didn't exist, would another Shiite movement have risen to power in Lebanon? The Shiite population's voice might have been much weaker, fundamentally altering Lebanon's political landscape as we know it today. Hezbollah became one of Iran's most important proxy forces in the Middle East. After the Iranian Revolution in the 1980s, Iran sought to extend its influence by supporting Shiite populations across the region. Hezbollah was a key part of this strategy. If Hezbollah had never been founded, Iran's influence in Lebanon, Syria, and the region as a whole might have been far more limited. Here's a critical point. Through Hezbollah, Iran has waged a proxy war against Israel. Hezbollah's military strength allowed Iran to increase its influence in the region without direct involvement. Imagine if Iran didn't have such a strong ally in Lebanon. What other power centers would have risen? Perhaps Saudi-backed Sunni groups or pro-Western factions would have had a stronger presence. Regional power dynamics would definitely look very different, right? Now let's talk about Israel. A large part of Israel's policy toward Lebanon has been shaped by Hezbollah's existence. The 2006 Israel-Hezbollah war showed just how complex Israel's security strategy in the region had become. If Hezbollah didn't exist, Israel-Lebanon relations could have been very different. When Israel invaded Lebanon in 1982, it was battling Palestinian militants and other resistance groups in Lebanon. But Hezbollah quickly became Israel's biggest rival in the region. Without Hezbollah, Israel might have reached an agreement with other groups in Lebanon earlier, and the conflicts there might not have lasted as long. What do you think? How would Israel's strategic interests have changed without Hezbollah in the equation? The answer to this question could have taken the Middle East's future in a completely different direction. One of the biggest changes in Hezbollah's absence might have been in the Syrian civil war. As you know, Hezbollah intervened directly in Syria to support the Assad regime, which changed the course of the war. The Assad regime survived largely due to Hezbollah's military support, and this cemented Iran's influence over Syria. But what if Hezbollah had never existed? Maybe the Assad regime would have collapsed much earlier. Maybe the Syrian war would have ended more quickly. Or perhaps other regional powers like Turkey and Saudi Arabia would have played a more prominent role. In the end, Syria's current situation could have been completely different. The key point here is that Hezbollah's absence would have created a domino effect, impacting not just Lebanon, but the entire region. Finally, let's evaluate how the West views the Middle East. After September 11th, the US and other Western countries focused on fighting terrorist groups in the region. Hezbollah is considered a terrorist organization by the West, which has significantly influenced Western security policies in the Middle East. If Hezbollah didn't exist, Western counterterrorism efforts might have been directed at other groups. Operations against organizations like Al-Qaeda and ISIS might have taken an even higher priority. Additionally, Lebanon's security situation could have been very different. Lebanon might have become a safer and more strategic ally for the West. But here's something to remember. When a power vacuum forms in the Middle East, another force inevitably steps in. So who would have taken Hezbollah's place? The answer to that could have completely reshaped the world order. Dear viewers, Events and actors that change the course of history often revolve around the existence of a single organization or leader. Today we discussed what could have happened in the Middle East if Hezbollah had never existed. Lebanon, Israel, Syria, and even the Western world. All of these would have evolved in completely different directions without Hezbollah. Now I turn to you. Do you think Hezbollah's existence has made the Middle East more complicated, or has it provided a balancing force in the region? Share your thoughts in the comments below. In our next video, we'll dive deeper into the mysteries of history once again. Take care and see you next time.